In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the... Anyone? Anyone?
Imagine a world where your child couldn't wait to go to school, where he was constantly challenged and earned top marks. Better yet, imagine the majority of our students in the United States were this way, and our example was spreading globally. The state of education in the United States is not for lack of trying, but in the ways we've been trying. We need to change the way we do research on what works in education. We need to account for what works for our students as individuals, rather than what works best for a correlated group of kids on the average. I teach at Northwest Christian High School in Olympia, Washington, home of the Gators. The 200 or so high school students affectionately refer to themselves as the Gators. I'll introduce you to our youngest educator and our oldest. I'm also going to mix in a few folks from the local public schools to broaden our view. We're going to focus on the high school, but we could just as easily apply this information to our elementary or middle school. So where to begin? How about at the beginning?
You want to get out?
Did you know that a substantial portion of a person's intelligence is determined in the first 36 months of life? Science writer Sandra Blakesley says, by age 4, the best that can be expected from education or intervention programs is to keep less advantaged children from falling behind. So what can parents do in those first 36 months? Well, one secret, according to child intellect researchers Todd Risley and Betty Hart, is called language dancing, where we talk to our young ones as if they were adults.
What do you think we should do today? What should we do today?
We need to be teaching the Gators about the first 3 years, since parenthood is right around the corner for them.
The Great Depression passed the... Anyone? Anyone? A tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which...
Students who've been raised in the age of technology are wired and stimulated differently than us. So we shouldn't be surprised when they don't respond to teaching them in the way we were taught. Our colleges and universities can no longer afford to teach our future educators to teach monolithically. In a monolithic classroom, the teacher stands in front of the class and lectures for most of the period, and all the students do the same lesson at the same time and move on to the next lesson regardless of whether they've mastered the previous, and despite the fact that they all have different intelligence types and learning styles.
My college taught me to teach monolithically and not student-centrically at all. We learned a little bit about learning styles, such as students learning better by touching things or writing things or just visualizing, but we didn't really go that in depth about it.
New York Times bestselling author Clayton Christensen, professor of business administration at Harvard Business School, is one of many experts pleading for U.S. educators to shift from the monolithic classroom to the student-centric classroom.
I don't feel like I'm the norm when it comes to student-centered. I think a lot of classrooms are kind of the worksheet world. They don't retain it because it doesn't have a lot of meaning for them. We need to engage the kids in different ways.
In Christensen's ideal student-centric classroom, students are first tested to see which of the 8 intelligence types they're blessed with. Do they think in words, graphics, physically, musically? Then they're tested for their learning style. Are they visual, or do they learn better by talking or playing it out? Once this information is determined, the student is matched with an individualized computer-based or online learning program that resembles a top-notch video game. It's challenging, engaging, and you don't move on to the next level until you've mastered the current material.
There should be a capability for any student, whether it's in a public high school or a private high school, to take a class online that is not offered at that particular public or private high school.
Anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government.
To all you old school educators, me included, this sounds crazy at first. But if you look deeper, you can see that the playing field has now been leveled. No longer are there students who don't get it. That problem was alleviated when we customized the material to match their intelligence types and learning styles.
I wish I wasn't the teacher I am right now sometimes, because it is so high stakes, testing, data driven, kids are becoming numbers.
Christensen recommends that every school hire a dedicated person to lead the computer-based, student-centric learning program. Oftentimes, techies are great at what they do, but they're not the creative types needed to implement a new program that requires training in the theory of multiple intelligences and the like.
If we were to start an online program here at the school, it would be absolutely crucial to hire someone who is just committed to that, because we need someone who understands education and is able to commit a lot of time to getting that started.
So we need to spend some money, and money's already tight. If we're willing to take the plunge, how do we know that we'll get a good return on our investment?
Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone?
So how can we justify adding a new salaried employee to start a computer-based online learning program that promises to ring up some bills? A better question is, how can we afford not to? A good place to start can be summarized in 2 words: disruptive innovation. A disruptive innovation is a new product that doesn't try to go head-to-head with the existing. Instead, it looks to attract non-consumers. At Northwest Christian, who are some of the non-consumers who might be attracted to a new computer-based or online program? Well, how about homeschooled students? There's a huge untapped market, and homeschooled students are often from Christian families, and many of these gifted kids often outgrow their parents' teaching abilities. Or what about students wanting a new foreign language? Typically, Northwest Christian only offers 1 or at most 2 foreign languages. But what about gifted students who need enhanced education beyond what Northwest Christian is offering? There are lots of other ways we benefit from a computer-based online learning program. Disruptive innovators start out slow, often because they have limited resources. But as they build momentum, they're able to grow and improve their product, all the while building a loyal band of followers.
Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue.
The main reason computers haven't made a major impact on the performance of U.S. students is because they've been brought into classrooms that aren't designed for computer-based learning.
Yeah, I feel like we were restricted from the moment that we set foot on campus. In an age where we had social networking, internet everywhere we go, computers in our homes, our cars, everywhere. We had no integration with the technology that existed in the school, which was usually limited to maybe a few computers in a classroom of 30 kids. Our teachers largely used whiteboards and perhaps an overhead projector to lecture to the class.
So why do I think this will work for the Gators? Well, I currently teach 2 different subjects to 2 different groups of students in the same classroom at the same time. It sounds chaotic, right? Well, actually, it's a joy, thanks to technology, project-based curriculum, and the student-centric classroom model. On a larger and more modular scale, Brigham Young University has a chemistry professor who, with the help of video game designers, created Virtual Chem Lab. He currently caters to 150,000 students who perform complex chemistry experiments nationwide.
This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone?
We need to be preparing students to be knowledge workers. Author Peter Drucker, who held 25 honorary doctorates from universities all over the world, coined this term to describe workers of the future who will be highly educated, highly specialized, lifelong learners. Knowledge workers will be the leaders of our future society, according to Drucker. And knowledge workers will routinely collaborate. This will be the first society in our history where it's no longer good enough to just be a hard worker. Are we preparing our kids for this, or are we throwing them to the wolves? I do hope the Gators get disrupted. I'm excited about the future of learning at Northwest Christian, even if we have to start out crawling.